before you know it, like I said, it will be gone eventually, so just give it time and we will see that cool off. Just maybe, including a cool off later this week. We'll take a look at that also coming up. Now, this is our camera over there at South Central Regional Medical Center over in Laurel. Of course, you notice that there it's 77 degrees and continuing to fall throughout the night. And then, of course, no measured rain, right? We really haven't seen a whole lot of rain, at least for a while here in the Pine Belt, but we do have a nice light westerly breeze still just kind of going throughout much of the area. Of course, I know that we had quite a bit of a westerly breeze last evening, due in part because of Helene kind of swirling up to our north, and it's still kind of helping influence, at least slightly, helping influence our wind pattern here in Mississippi just a little bit. But of course, it's not as breezy now as it was last evening. Now, let's take a look at our temperatures across the board there, of course, including Ellisville. Poor Ellisville, I guess it fell off the map there. I don't know. But anyway, everybody else, we're looking all good. And I have a feeling, if I had to guess, Ellisville would be somewhere between Moselle at 74 and Clara at 76. So you'll split the difference there at 73 for the folks at the home of Jones College. And then, of course, you got a lot of those, a lot of mixture here. A lot of those upper 70s, see some of them in the northern counties, but you have a few low 70s starting to populate the map. Look at those 72s in Seminary and Taylorsville, respectively. And then, of course, a few other warmer portions. Look at portions of like Perry County and Forest, those sorts of areas also staying a bit warmer. But basically, as we make our way through the night, we are going to continue to see that cool off. And I know that we're in the 70s now, but we are going to see some 60s before you know it in a few hours from now for tonight. It ought to make for actually a quite pretty night. I know there's not a whole lot of moonlight out there, but it'll still be a nice starry and clear night for those of you curious. Now, let's take a look at the tropics. This is the big story that's coming up, all right? I know that Helene is gone, but remember that hurricane season does continue until November 30th. So technically, we are going to have to continue to watch each and every area that continues to kind of start to shape up here. We have a disturbance that we're expecting to form somewhere down here. And if this disturbance starts kind of hugging portions of Central America here, you notice that further development is about a coin toss-up worth of a chance, about a 50-50 chance. So you get your favorite quarter, half dollar, whatever you got. A personal fan of the half dollar. Things you don't see anymore, right? But anyway, just some good type of flipping coin. Pick heads or tails, and then there you go. We'll see what we get for further development over the course of the week ahead. Like I said, 50-50 for a tropical depression. That's further development from what you see now. Around maybe midweek or so is when we're expecting the potential for that tropical depression to show up. Now, let's take a look at what's active right now and what's already named, including Hurricane Isaac. And well, if you're familiar with South Louisiana, then Isaac is a very familiar name from 2012. But if you're not, that's okay. Have no fear. Isaac is no threat to land or Louisiana or the Pine Belt as a whole for 2024, right? You notice Isaac's just going to continue to swirl out in the Atlantic, do its thing, and you notice that some of our little logos here, notice how the little ones, the handy-dandy indicator of a Category 1 hurricane, notice that those go away, but our wind field stays pretty consistent. Surely, it isn't, these winds are below hurricane force. You see the 65 and the 50 there. However, Isaac is entering, basically it's gotten so far north that before you know it, it'll reach a point in latitude in the Atlantic Ocean where it's no longer considered a tropical system because it's too far north. So even if it continues to bring tropical storm-like conditions to a bunch of fish in the North Atlantic here, it's not going to be considered tropical for much longer as indicated by the map. For now, as of the National Hurricane Center's 4 p.m. bulletin, it still shows that Isaac is a Category 4 storm with a central pressure right around 968 millibars. But like I said, it will continue to weaken slightly, but it will bring some of those showers and thunderstorms and just gusty winds to a whole lot of nothing out in the North Atlantic. Speaking of storms with a whole lot of nothing, Yep, what do you see here? No, that's good news. We don't want any of these storms to be interacting with any of the land masses, if you will. And it's the same story, not only for Isaac, but Joyce as well. However, Joyce, you notice that it's got a decent little cloud field. You can see some of that convection, the blossoming of these thunderstorms. And if you want a fancy term, you can think about it as what's known as echo tops. So basically, you think about some of the temperatures and some of the peaks of all these clouds that are just blossoming as they kind of bubble out in the Atlantic. Of course, even though Joyce is over the warm Atlantic and of course at a more southern position to Isaac, it's still expected to kind of slowly just kind of mosey along and not do a whole lot of much before weakening and just kind of becoming ultimately nothing, right? Now, let's take a look at where we stack up for the names so far this year. I know we were just talking about Helene, which, Helene really caused some issues, right? And of course, thankfully, now that we've got Isaac and Joyce, even though those are active, they're not expected to be causing any sort of issues for anybody, including us. But we are watching two of those areas, including one of those areas that we were looking at in the Atlantic. There's another invest area just like that in the middle of the Atlantic as well, near the Cape Verde Islands, the western coast of Africa, if you will. So if we were likely to see both of those invest areas become named and see some of that further development in the coming days, we will be on the lookout for both Kirk and Leslie being the most likely names for us along the list. But that's a wrap on the tropics. I know that's a handful. I know it's a lot. But just make sure to stay tuned with us for the latest. Of course, like I said, hurricane season is staying active, and that includes us. We should still continue to monitor everything there down in the Caribbean as it evolves. Now, let's talk about the almanac, right? You notice, yeah, it's been warm. In fact, warmer than typical with a lot of these daytime highs that we are seeing in the upper 80s. The upper 80s for now aren't really going anywhere. So we're definitely going to remain consistently above average for our temperatures there. And then, of course, we bottomed out at 62 this morning, and we're going to bottom out late tonight, early tomorrow, likely right around 63, which is basically average in terms of your low. And, of course, no records were set for today, at least for our temperatures. But you notice our record high there at 97 in 1920, and then, of course, a record low way back when at 44 degrees. Now, for tonight, it'll be a nice, clear, starry night. Not a whole lot of moonlight under that waning gibbous or maybe even a waning crescent. I don't think there's a whole lot of moon left before it becomes a new moon. So you'll see a fair bit of the stars. If you're a fan of getting the telescope out or just enjoying the starry show, then you're certainly going to have plenty of stars to enjoy in the skies, especially with that clear air. It's not as humid, not as hot. So you get at least a slightly better visibility during the night, and of course that very light westerly breeze as well. Now, if you plan on going to church or elsewhere to spend your Sunday, then of course it's going to be very similar for your Sunday compared to what we saw today. Maybe a slight increase in cloud cover, and I mean very slight, but at the end of the day, whether you compare today or tomorrow, there's still going to be abundant sunshine. It's going to be predominantly sunny, but some of those clouds may enter the mix somewhere in the afternoon hours before they clear out, and it makes for another clear night. And of course, no rain chances to speak of for anybody as well. Now for tomorrow, here's what I was talking about, right? You see another 88 up there for the daytime high, and that's exactly what we'd expect for the next few days. And then, of course, a very light westerly wind. I've never heard of a brind. I don't think that's a word, but westerly wind. There you go. Anyway, that's going to be the name of the game for the near term before we start to see a change, especially as whatever's left of post-tropical Helene up to our north, once that low pressure center goes away, we'll start to see different nuances and changes in our wind direction here in the Pine Belt. And like I said, abundant sunshine and maybe a few stray clouds, just maybe, right? Here's something that I've been enjoying. I know I said I wish it was a little cooler, and I do, but that lower humidity is also something that's been quite enjoyable to say the least if you ask me, but a slight increase, a slight return to the humidity is expected. You can see our muggy meter dials are certainly going to indicate that the dew points will slowly kind of creep back up on us, but thankfully I'm not expecting it to be anything tremendously high in the area. Remember, if you see a dew point of 70 or above, like on those muggy meter dials, that's when you're really feeling the humidity, very humid-like conditions. But I'm liking the week ahead. We're looking pretty good. A lot of those high 80s, though, I just wish it was a few degrees cooler, maybe closer to that average typically for late September on the almanac, closer to 84, 85 degrees. But, you know, at the end of the day, these are the cards we've been dealt. It's very likely that we're going to finish the month of September without any additional rainfall. However, some of the uncertainties start to kind of add into the mix there. If you look at late in the work week, we see some small rain chances and, of course, even a slight cool-off. Now, whether that's part of a tropical system, of course, the increased cloud cover, and maybe even a weak front, all these uncertainties are at play, and whether or not, you know, if the cold front makes it through our area, then it could keep the tropical system away, kind of like what we saw with Helene. But if the front doesn't make it all the way through our area, then maybe, you know, we get some more rain. You never know. So basically, at the end of the day, you want to make sure to stay tuned with us for the latest. As we get better information, better data, everything becomes available there, because it could very well be a wetter start to next work week after our nice, beautiful, sunny, and dry stretch this week. I'll see you guys again tomorrow. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your Saturday evening. Take care.